Hi again, everybody. It's Mary Lenahan from Crestwood. I'm your friendly year-end expert. So we are going to get started. This is being recorded as well. So if you have any, want to go back and review any of the steps or take a look at the slides again, yeah, like Lauren said, those are in the chat window for you to download the slides, as well as a couple of documents on what's new in 18.5, as well as some year-end tips also that we wrote up for our clients. So feel free to download those 3 documents, and that will hopefully be helpful at this very stressful time of the year. And hi, everyone. It's Mary Lenahan from Crestwood again. Thanks for all for joining. It looks like we have a very large attendance today. So thank you for making the time to talk about year-end with us. I'm going to go ahead and get started. We are recording this again, and my name is Mary Lenahan. I am the presenter today. I have been around at Crestwood for many, many years. I had started in, I guess I had 2 rounds. First one was 7 years, and the last one was been 18 and a half years. So I've been with Crestwood for a long time. I've been working with GP for 23 years, and I'm on the account management team, but I just love doing year-end seminars so I can share my experience with you guys and get a chance to share my experience of doing all these year-end closes over the years. Here's my email address if you have any questions after the presentation. Of course, if you need actual help with your year-end planning or your year-end update, if you decide to put that on, please reach out to support@crestwood.com. That is the best way to get some technical support. I'm pretty rusty on that technical support, but I'm actually really willing to help you out with any of those, kind of point you in the right direction questions. So feel free to reach out. And today we are going to cover quite a few topics. We have a lot on the agenda in this 1-hour time frame that we've got planned. So we are going to talk about Dynamics GP, the product lifecycle. We're going to talk about that a little bit. Just everyone is familiar with what's going on with the lifecycle of GP. And we'll talk a little bit about some ISV news that you probably want an update on. So just talk about those for a little bit. We'll go through also going to talk about 1099s a little bit and what's in the year-end update in case you decide that you want to put it on. It's really not required this year for anybody, especially for payroll clients. There are no changes to the W-2. There's no form changes. There's no changes to the electronic filing requirement, which is big relief, right? Because you're always frantically trying to get year-end update on. And that, of course, does update you to 18.5. We'll talk about that in just a minute, but is not required for payroll clients to put the year-end update on. So we'll talk about what it does include. And then we'll go through the year-end closing preparation, what you should do ahead of time, what you can be doing now before that last couple weeks of December. We're almost there, but those last week or so December where everyone's taking some time off, you can do some things now to get ready for that. And then we'll talk about what sequence you want to do your year-end closing in. And then we'll go through the process for closing for each module. Okay, so we'll show you these steps. And we will also talk about what they do and how to do them. This is the order that they need to be done in: sales order, purchase orders, inventory, receivables, payables, fixed assets, and general ledger. Now, payroll is usually done before general ledger because it needs to be done at calendar year end. But there's still a year end process, of course, for payroll, creating the year end wage file and everything. But there is no software update required for payroll clients. And just wanted to kind of set some of the rumors that are out there about GP ending and end of life. And you've probably heard a lot of these stories out there about how GP is going away. There's no more updates to it. It's not true. And some of that rumors and speculation was from the Dynamics Summit that was in October, where Mike Morton, a Microsoft person in charge of the small business division, got on stage and said, you have to move to Business Central. Now, that's an option. There's Business Central Cloud is an option, a completely different product, and you can migrate from GP, but is not required to do it, nor is it, it's not required, it's not essential, it's not important for you to do it right now. GP is being supported and enhanced until 2028 and beyond. And there's some articles here that will prove that out for you. Here's his retraction of his misspeaking at the summit. There's a link to the modern life cycle. And Terry Healy, who's someone that I've known for 20 some years at Microsoft, has written a really nice article talking about Microsoft's commitment to GP customers on the GP side. So Microsoft's a big company. Not everybody is on the same motivation for that, for moving those 50,000 GP customers forward. So rest assured that GP and Crestwood will be around for many, many years, and we'll be able to take you to that next step when and if you need to take that step. So feel free to grab these PowerPoint slides, which are in the deck in the chat window, and you will have links to those presentations as well. So just wanted to assure you, we are exploring lots of options with our GP customers, and one of them is staying right where you are until at least 2028 and into the future. And this is the modern life cycle that we've talked about. Now, if you are on GP 2018 or 2018 R2, mainstream support for those versions does end next year. That means there will be no more bug fixes, no more payroll updates, no more 1099 fixes. So you need to update at some point in the next year or two if you're on 2018 or 18 R2. Now, the rest of you guys that upgraded and you're on a version that came out in the last 3 years, so that came out in 2018 and R2 was 2019. So anybody who came out with 18.3, 18.4, 18.5, you're on the main modern lifecycle. And Microsoft does recommend that you take an update at least once a year or every other year, just to keep current on the features and the functionality and just being able to keep those updates going, because you do want to have the latest and greatest version of the modern lifecycle once you get to 18.3. And as you probably have discovered, there's some reasons why you want to move to 18.3, including keeping up to date with the 1099s and also with emailing out of GP. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Couple of ISV announcements for 2022. If you are using the extended HR and payroll modules, as well as the payroll extensions from the starter pack, you will need to contact Integrity Data for 18.5 compatible releases. So you should have already be aware of that. They've been sending out emails. We've been sending out emails. But if you have any questions about that, please let your CAM know or the support team, and they can move you over to somebody at Integrity Data to help you get that data. Also, those of you that are running Scribe Insight, which is the on-site perpetual version of Scribe, you should have already gotten notified that it will not be supported after this year. So we'll have to figure out a way to move you to Smart Connect from E1 or Tibco Cloud, and those are options to get you on a supported product moving forward. So contact your account manager, whether it's me or Wendy or Nick, and then we can help you move forward with getting on that the latest supported version of an integration tool. Integration Manager, folks, you're fine. Anybody who's still using Integration Manager, you're fine. Okay, so what's in the year-end update? Basically, if you do update, which came out 18.5 came out on 11/15. If you put that on there, we talked about the modern life cycle, and you'll be able to put on that. Will prompt you if you put on the year-end update. It will take you to 18.5, and again, like I mentioned before, it's more like a service pack. So it's 2 to 4 hours to update you once you're on an 18.3 or higher version. So make sure you're keeping current. And what came out in October, the new features there are available from this link here. So you'll have that when you download the slides. And as far as what's in the year-end update, so the 18.5 version actually came in October. The year-end update just came out November 15th. And this is going to have some changes for those of you that are using the 1099 miscellaneous. So there are no changes to the 1099 NEC, which is this is the one you guys mostly use for non-employee compensation. No changes to that, except for on the forms that you pre-printed forms that Microsoft got, they took away the date. So if you do not put the year-end update on, you're going to have to change the report writer to print the date on there. Okay, but you still would be able to print the 1099s as long as you're on 18.3 or 18.4. what you would be able to print the 1099 NECs. Now, if you have 1099 miscellaneous for rent and royalty, you will either need to do report writer changes or you need to put on the year-end update. So that's the main reason that you want an update for 1099s for the miscellaneous one. Okay, and I'll show you the changes in just a minute. And if you're doing fixed assets, there's some luxury auto depreciation changes. So if you need the update for that, those changes would be included in that. But again, there are no payroll changes this year. So you're not required to put the year-end update on if you're a payroll user. Okay, so the W2, W3 is exactly the same as 2022. It'll be the same in 2023 and 2021. And the ACA form is still in draft. So if you're using the ACA forms in GP, that's still not finalized. Craziness. That is the IRS. So so there will be a hot fix when that comes out, and it'll probably be end of December, early January. Okay, again, if you need, another reason you might want to put the year-end update on is if you email out of GP and the workaround doesn't work for you. So if you are already on 18 dot something and you want to be able to email out of GP and the workaround with the MAPI workaround, or the 18.3 is still giving you some troubles, you may need to apply this year-end update. And like I said, it's more of a patch if you're already on 18.3 or 18.4. Now, if you're not on 18.3 or 18.4, this is more of an upgrade. And we really need to talk to your account manager as soon as possible if you need anything on this page. And it has to be, a 1099 change where you have to do the 1099 miscellaneouses. And the 1099 NEC is actually able to print without buying pre-printed forms. So if you wanted to print those just out of GP directly, if you have the year-end update on, you can do that, which is nice. You don't have to buy forms. Some of the other new features in 18.5, which you will get when you put the year-end update on, is what's new in features. They're listed here, and there's a little screenshot and how to use them. There's a lot of them, but they're all really minor, so we're not really going to go over them today. But if you have any questions about them, take a look at that document that I put in the chat. Okay. There's no changes to the dividend form, so I just showed you last year versus this year. So that one's fine. The NEC form, there is no changes. The only thing that that is changed on the form is that you have to put in the 1099, I'm sorry, the year over here, the calendar year. And you can do that with a report writer tweak. It's real easy. Just contact support@crestwood.com. They can pre-print that date in there for 2022. Yes, if you do put the year-end update, you won't need to buy pre-printed forms. You can print right on white paper. So that's a nice thing about this year and the year-end update. And then the miscellaneous form, this is usually for people that have rents or royalties that they're paying to their vendors. That form has changed. And it's basically they moved these boxes around and then changed this box, moved it down. Why do they do this? I don't know, but they did. So if you need to print them out of there, you probably want to get the year-end update on if you do the 1099 miscellaneous forms. If your update is more complex, their report writer changes, we can move those boxes around for you. Okay, so just contact support@crestwood.com and schedule your year-end update or to get the report writer changes on. Just so you know, since I'm already talking about 1099s, the forms are due to the recipients by January 31st, paper filing by the 28th, and e-filing by March 31st. But the NEC form, which is the big one, right? That's a non-employee compensation. That is due by January 31st to recipients and the IRS. That's changed for this year. Okay. And then just making you aware too, in 2023, the IRS is proposing electronic filing for 100 or more 1099s. Right now it's 250. And I know that a lot of you know about that already because some states require electronic filing for all 1099s. Okay, so double check to make sure your state is in the combined federal and state filing program. NEC is in there now. And Green Shades also would be able to help you with your state filing. They'll create that combined federal state filing file that needs to be sent, and the IRS will accept it and will pass it along to those states. Okay. Again, if you need to print 1099s in GP, these are your options. If you're on 18.4, you do not need to apply the year-end update. But you'll need a report writer tweak to print that. And then again, contact your partner if you need to. If you're on 18.x, which is 3 or 4 or 5, then contact your partner. These other ones, we need to talk to your account manager because we probably won't be able to upgrade you if you're on 2016 or earlier in the next 6 weeks. So there's some workarounds. Green Shades can print your 1099s for you, or if you even have the Crestwood export file from last year, you should be able to still use that. I have a couple people have asked me about it, so test it out and let me know, but there were no table changes, so it should work. But if it doesn't work, please let us know as soon as possible. And then also, if you could, we can build you a 1099 report with the SmartList Builder or Designer. Okay, back to year end. Hopefully I haven't spent too much time on that, but I know that's really important and a lot of people have been asking about it. Okay, so year-end closing preparation, make sure that you have notified everybody that when you're going to be doing year-end close, especially those of you guys that are on the Crestwood cloud. We're doing backups for you like every 15 minutes, so it shouldn't be a big deal, but just let us know that day if you're planning on doing the upgrade yourself on the cloud. Otherwise, obviously, if you need some hand holding or you need some help, make sure you schedule that time so that we get you on the calendar if you need any help. And then also inform your IT folks, inform the payables people, receivables people, the general ledger people when we're starting to do year end so that you can get your backups and get everybody out of the system. So while you're performing year end, everyone should be out. And we'll talk a little bit about the date sensitivity. So you want to make sure that you're doing this, like you should do it after you've run all your pay runs for 20 payables, pay runs after you've done all the cash receipts for 2022. Sometimes I know the date sensitivity is not exactly, you haven't gotten everything in that you need in, but just keep in mind that some of this date sensitivity, and we'll talk about that, does apply to some of the reports. So if there's file maintenance that you need to do, check links, reconcile, make sure you got that scheduled. Contact our support team if you're in the cloud. Otherwise, if you're doing your own, make sure that the IT folks know that you're doing this file maintenance so you can have the backups done before you start. Just to protect yourselves. I mean, there's all kinds of crazy things that could happen with your backups not being available when you need them. So just double check you have those backups. If there's any cleanup that you need to do, like removing or archiving history, make sure you reach out to the folks too and get that taken care of if you need backups before you do this. Or if you're inactivating accounts or vendors, customers, those kind of things, make sure you do that before you do year end. If there's reconciliation that you need to run, this is a good time to do that. Usually people do it at month end or quarter end sometimes, but be careful about running reconcile on these modules if you have any customization. If you have customization, you would know, but that would be dexterity customization, not extender or anything like that. That would be fine. So that's what you should think about. And then again, the order that you should do year end, there's no real year end processing for sales orders and purchase orders, but you just want to make sure that you're following your normal month end process. And we'll go through what those are, recommended processes. And then, of course, if you're running a year-end inventory, you want to do that before you perform year-end close because you want to make sure you've got all your numbers incorrect before you moved balances to next year. Same thing with receivables, payables, fixed assets, general ledger. A lot of people wait until a few months into the year to close general ledger. And again, general ledger is a soft close. You don't really have to wait that long because you can do post-closing adjustments, but you can only go back 1 year. So after you've closed 2022 and you're in transacting in 2023, you can only go back into 2022. You can't go back into 2021. So just keep that in mind. It's a soft close, so you really don't have to wait. A lot of people do, and I understand that, but the general ledger usually is closed a little bit later, but we'll talk about the timing for receivables, inventory, and fixed assets and payables because those have some report dates that you might want to consider doing as close to year end as you can. And then payroll is usually done before general ledger, but I'm going to present it today last. So in case there's those of you that don't, really do payroll and GP and you need to get back to your email or, lunch or other transactions that you're working on today, I'm going to cover payroll year end at the last part. So if you do want to drop off, I won't be too offended, but do be sure to leave any questions for us in the chat. Okay, so the first module that we'll talk about is sales order processing. Again, if you do month-end procedures in the recommended month-end procedures that are in the checklist, you don't necessarily need to do anything different. And I'm going to go through these steps with you guys right now. So I'm in GP and I did put the year-end update on. So I am on 18.5 right now. So I'm going to go over to sales order processing, and I've moved all of my routines here at the top so you can kind of see which order that you should do them in. So the first thing that we normally do is reconcile, right? If we're doing month end, and you can do reconciliation for all open items, for balance forward items. This is receivables, and then this is also sales order processing, which is where I meant to go. And this is where you can actually run the report first, which I would recommend if you're not usually used to using reconciliation. Run the report first and see if there's anything that's out there that needs to be done. Now, I'm not actually going to run each one of these because it could, really lock up my system because I'm running it on my laptop. So, but if you guys want to do this at any time, when you have some time, you can do this and run the report without anybody, without people being out of the system. It's safe to do, but it's also a good idea before you start any of these to have a backup. Okay, before you run reconciliation, before you do check links, always have a backup before you do that. You could run a report first. And then also this remove completed documents, it's not removing them per se, it's actually just moving all the paid documents to history. And that's something that you should be doing from time to time, both in purchasing and in sales. So those are the steps to do that for month end. And then the next step would be to, like I said, remove completed documents. And then any reports that you might want to run during the month, there's a document analysis, inventory sales. And of course, you can run these anytime. And those reports are under analysis, under reports. So these are your SOP. Document analysis shows you all of the documents that ran for a period, inventory, sales, all the sales moved through inventory, and then the salesperson's report. So feel free to run those reports. But again, there's no month end close for sales order processing. And purchasing order processing is pretty much the same thing. These are our period end processes. We reconcile the purchasing documents, remove completed purchase orders, which again is just moving them to history. And then we print some month end reports. And those again under purchasing area page, and then you reconcile purchasing documents, and you can reconcile them here, and then remove transaction history. I'm sorry, not transaction history, remove purchasing history. And again, it's not really moving, it's moving them to history. Now, if you want to actually remove history, you can turn that off, or you can print reports. So there's a couple of different options there. And remove, sorry, that's not the one you want. Please disregard that. This is the one you want, remove completed purchase orders. This is what moves things to history. It's under routines, not utilities. Utilities is usually kind of dangerous. Anything past remove is actually going to take them out of the system. Remove completed purchase orders under routines is what I wanted to show you. I apologize. Hopefully I just had that little brain blip there. Sorry about that. And that'll just move everything from purchase orders, from open purchase orders to history, which you want to do because that helps your reports run faster and your inquiry screens. Okay, and then of course there's other print month-end reports as well, and those are normally under your analysis again reports. So this is going to give you the received not invoice report, and shipment invoices if there's any PO items that are left to release still. Run those reports around month end or even at year end. Okay, so the next module that we actually do have a year-end process for is inventory control. So of course, we want to make sure you've posted all your transactions for the fiscal year and that you've performed any kind of updates to the physical inventory. So you want to post transactions, just post all the batches that you have out there. And if you're running reconcile inventory, we're going to go to the inventory module here, and reconciliation is under utilities as well. This is where you'd run reconcile. And it basically reconciling is making sure that all of your transactions, the summary are equaling all the detail and there's nothing missing like a vendor or an item or anything like that. Everything should be correctly set up in here for you, but this will give you that sense that your data is all good and ready to go into the new year. And again, make sure that you do a backup before you run reconcile. This one does not allow you to do a report first. Okay, and then of course, if you're doing a physical inventory or account at year end, make sure you've got all those adjustments posted. And then some year-end reports that you probably want to run are the stock status or the HITB report, your purchase receipts, your inventory turn report, any of these other reports. And those, again, are under analysis for the most part. You can run those reports for your, I didn't see them there. Oh, there's a turn report. Where am I at? Inventory. Okay. Yep. And then some of them are activities, some of them are analysis. So make sure that you've got those reports that you need to run right at year end. Yeah. Stock status, other reports there too. Okay. And so definitely do that. And then, of course, make a backup before you start the year-end close process and notify that everyone should be out of the system while you're running that year-end process, just in case, so that you can restore a backup if you need to. Now, this only takes minutes to do. I'm actually going to push the button on the inventory close while we're talking here, but that would be under routines. All of the year-end processes are under your routines. Click on year-end close. And then some of these things, you may want to remove discontinued items or sold lot attributes or sold receipts prior to a specific date if you want to. It's not required to, unless you're running into any kind of data storage problems. I would just leave these blank. And the same thing with updating the item standard cost. Don't let the system do this right at year end like this. It could make some changes to things that you're not aware of are going to be changed. So make sure you contact support at crestwood.com if you need help updating your standard cost. I don't recommend that you check any of these boxes. So let's go ahead and hit the button here, and it's going to run through the year-end process. And there is no report. So the only way that you can really tell that it's done is when the window goes away. I don't know if you guys have ever seen this too, but there's this process monitor under GP that tells you if anything's running in the system. Just a little tip from way back in the day. So if you're wondering, is it done? Is it over? Just click on GP process monitor, and that will tell you if there's anything running still in your system. And that's about it. Now we're going to open up. I'm going to show you again really quick where the fiscal period setup is, because you will need that set up before you start. So if you go to company setup, fiscal periods, this is where you're going to set up your new year. And in my sample data 2027, these are all historical years. Eeks. So the next year for me is going to be, I guess, oops, what did I just do? Fiscal periods. The next year for me is 2035. So I'm really in the future. So this is how you create the new year. You just basically type in the date and then you hit calculate, and it will put in all your periods for you from the previous year. Oh, it's taking so long. But so this is basically, pretend this says 2023, but this is the new year for you, and it's going to have your start and end date, and it's going to tell you all the periods here. So if you wanted to, you could actually close all the periods until you're actually ready, so nothing accidentally gets posted into the new year. We'll come back to this a couple of times because you might want to reopen it for doing a post-closing adjustment or something like that, or you might just want to keep January open. It's up to you, but just kind of showing you how to create that new year and get that ready to go for 2023. Okay, so we've got those set up, and then also, I guess for 2022, you would want to maybe close that year too. So I'll just pretend like I'm in 2022 and close all the periods. And this is basically a soft close too, because you can always go back 1 year and make post-closing adjustments to subledgers or general ledger. So I'm going to open that again because who knows, I might accidentally post something today and I don't want to have the periods closed. Okay, so that's inventory. That's pretty straightforward. The next module that we want to cover is receivables. Now, a lot of people tell me, Mary, I've never closed receivables management, and that's okay. But just keep in mind that there are a couple of reports that are using year-to-date balances or YTD balances. And if you rely on those for any reports, whether it's a smart list report or a summary report in the receivables management summary, or anything that's in the inquiry windows called the customer summary window, called amount since last close, those all are relying on when you closed the year. So just to be safe and to make sure all your data is in sync, I would recommend that you do perform receivables management year-end close. So I would recommend it. It's not required, as long as you know that if you were to run, let's say if you go into SmartList, and I would like to look at under receivables, if I go to sales and I want to look at my customers, and maybe I'm doing a customer balance with year-to-date balances, and I'm like, this is great. Look at, I've got year-to-date sales, finance charges. If you don't run year-end for 2022, these balances will be incorrect. Okay, because this is for the current year-to-date. And if you do it in 2023 and you do year-to-date, it's going to have all the balances from the beginning. If you've never closed the year, it'll have everything in there. So you can't really rely on it, is what I'm saying, if you don't perform year-end every year. So just be aware of these YTD balances will not be correct. So why not just close it while you're doing the other ones? Might as well close the year end. And then there's also a couple of other reports too for receivables. Let's just go to sales, and under the inquiry window, there's this receivables summary window. Oh, wrong one. Yearly summary is what it's called now. So for each year, for each customer, you can see their balances here, amount since last closed. So Adam Park has $10,000 in sales in year to date. Now, if I didn't close the year and I came in this window, it would keep adding 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, whatever, instead of moving these balances from this year to last year. So this is what happens when you'd actually have run. This is what you can use instead of the calendar year one, but like you see, they're not in sync. So just keep that in mind. If you never use this amount since last close, that's fine. But if you always go in here and recalculate every time, that's fine too. But just letting you know that if you don't run year end, these will be wrong. Those windows will be wrong. So, okay, so I did mention that. So make sure again that you have all your sales and your receivables transactions for the year all posted and everything's ready to go. And then make your backup. You could do the backup just once before you do payables and receivables and fixed assets. You can do them all at the same time. It's going to take like an hour, maybe at the most, to do all this, and then you can restore. You don't really have to do a backup before each module unless you do them on separate days. But I would do them all at the same time. Just keep everybody out of the system for an hour or so while you're performing year end on those modules. Okay, so then really all we need to do is go again to routines. So all the routines are where the year-end close process is. So I'm going to go to routines, year-end close, and I'm both a fiscal and a calendar year. Obviously, the calendar year is going to do and update the only thing it really updates that's different from the fiscal year is that calendar year, you have finance charges that are calculated and reported by calendar year. So that's the difference. If you do calendar year, it's gonna change everything for finance charges. But if you do fiscal year, it'll move things forward. So go ahead and hit the process button, and I'll just show you what happens when you run that report. I'll print it to the screen. Okay, and this is the report that you get. And basically it's a review by customer of all their transactions for the year. And you can print this if you want to, print it to file, just save it if you want to, because this report you will not be able to rerun. But pretty much every other report in GP you can run, but this one, this year-end closing report can't be redone. So if you want to see, what the salespeople did for the year, this might be a good thing to keep. There's still reports that you can run, but you can't run this specific one, year-to-date one. Okay, and I just want to show you real quick, if we go back to that that window where we were looking at the summary for receivables. Let's see, where was that at? Oh, yearly summary. So now when we go and we look at the Adam Park balances, they've now been moved into the last year. And that's what happens when you do year end. It basically moves the balances, the summary balances from year to date to last year. Okay. And that's pretty much the same process on the payable side too. Okay, so we close the fiscal periods and close the tax year as well. I don't know how many people are running taxes in GP, but if you are, the tax close year is under company. So we go to administration, routines, tax year close, because taxes are across payables and receivables. So let's just run the tax year close so you can see what that report looks like. So we get reports by all the taxing jurisdictions, year-to-date reports for all of those. So that was that. Now we're going to go to running the payables year-end close. And it's pretty much the same story. Like I told you, anything that has a YTD on it will get updated when you run the year-end close. If you do not run year-end close, you cannot rely on any field in GP that has a YTD field on it, year-to-date field. So, so if you go to purchasing, same thing. If we go to the inquiry window and we look at the purchasing summary window, vendor yearly summary, this is the same window except for vendors, right? And so there's last year's numbers. I guess none of these vendors have any data in the current year. Weird. Okay. It's kind of weird, but oh, there we go. Okay, so this vendor here, Bergeron Communications, that $1,000 is going to move from this year to last year. And you'll see that in a minute. Okay, so we would go ahead and make sure we've posted everything, make sure we have a backup, and then we're going to go to routines and year-end close. Now, before you do, you can do year-end close before or after you print 1099s, but I usually like to just mention that the 1099 process at this time. Whoops, totally lost where I was at. Sorry about that. You can do this backup before you do 1099s. Most people do 1099s in January, and they do year-end close in December. So you can go back and do 1099s in January after you've closed the year. It's totally fine to do that. I have it before doing year-end here in this step, but it's not required. Remember again, and I know you guys are probably going to be sick of me saying this, but you can print a 1099 report out of GP just to see where the things will print and how they look, and make sure that you've got your dollar amounts. So I'm going to do the one for the non-employee compensation. So I'm going to just print the report first, and so you can see what it looks like. And this is where you can go and make sure that you have the tax IDs correct. This one seems to be missing a tax ID, so that's needs to be Bergeron needs to be fixed as soon as possible. You don't want to get those penalties for putting out reports with wrong tax IDs. So you can see their address can be confirmed, the tax ID number, the dollar amounts are going to be what's going to print on the 1099s. So make sure you check this out before you start printing 1099s. Now, if you want to, I'm going to just show you what, I haven't done this yet, you guys. I'm totally going off script here, but this is what the non-employee compensation screen is going to look like. And it doesn't have boxes. What am I doing wrong? Single feed, one feed. Oh, one feed with box. Okay, one wide with box. So this is going to look, what's what it's going to look like if you have the year-end update on. Hey, look at that. That's pretty cool. So did I convince everybody to put the year-end update on now? You don't have to buy the forms. Puts the year in here, puts the date and all this stuff. Okay, maybe not. Maybe it's not worth it, but it is pretty cool. So, so if those numbers are wrong or you need to update anything, you can change it at the vendor card. But if the 1099 amounts are right, we need to go to the 1099 details under cards. And this is where you would update the vendor. So if something was wrong, Wood Consulting, we actually paid them money, but it didn't get marked as a 1099 vendor. You know, and remember that 1099 box for the vendors is under options and what type of 1099 vendor they are. If it's not correct, you need to go in here and you need to update their details. So let's say we paid them $1,000. We could put that amount in there, and then you're going to put it in a month. You can do it a month. We cannot edit by year, so we have to actually put it in a month. So just update that, save that. Now they will get a 1099 because I changed it on their 1099 details card. So when I print the 1099 for that one, it'll be correct. So do these 1099s again before you close, after you close, doesn't matter because it's all date sensitive. So it's not a YTD field. So it's all date fields based on what's already in the system. So definitely do that. And then also the year-end process for payables is pretty straightforward too. We just go to routines, year-end close. And this is where we're going to get the data will be updated if you do all for 1099s. If you do just calendar, it'll just do 1099s. And if you do all, it'll do fiscal and calendar year. So if you have a June 30th year end, you can do the calendar year now to update your 1099 information and move it from this year to last year. Okay, so I'm on a calendar fiscal year, so I'm going to go ahead and close the year, and we'll print that vendor report as well. Okay, so we're moving everybody. This is so weird. The vendors didn't have a lot of data in that year, but there's that one that I told you was going to move from 1099s. 1099 amount was going to move from this year to last year. It's weird. I haven't been putting too many transactions in my sample data. Been too many sales, not enough consulting. So let me just show you again on that vendor yearly report. This is where they would move the data from year to date to last year. I think it was a B word, right? B? Yeah, there is. So Bergeron. So it moved from year to date to last year. So that one is up to date. But of course, these can always be calculated anytime you want, and it'll show you the correct amounts in the year. Okay. So that is how you do the year end. I hope I impressed you with that 1099 NEC because I impressed myself. All right, we're doing pretty good on timing. Hope everybody's doing okay. Next module is fixed assets, which I always say is my favorite module in GP. I don't know why. I think it's because I used to have to do them manually in Excel spreadsheets when I used to be an accountant. So I definitely love the fact that you can do GP fixed assets. If anybody's not using this module, you should be. And why are you not? And we need to talk. But so you want to perform, again, year-end closing for payables before that, because they interface with payables and purchasing and general ledger. So it's a really well-rounded module. It's free. You own it. All you have to do is get the data in there and start figuring out how to use it. So everybody should be using the fixed assets module, and contact me after and I'll show you. I'll give you a demo. But anyway, the fixed assets transactions need to be entered for the current year. And this is really important. Anybody that's on a 445 or like a quarter where you don't have an actually month end is not, the 31st or the 30th every month, you need to make sure to remember you depreciate all assets through the last day of the year that you're closing, because that will cause a major problem. You basically won't be able to close the year for fixed assets if you haven't depreciated through the end of the year. And if those of you guys haven't seen that in a while, you would go to run depreciation. Again, that's under routines. I'm going to roll this up. So we're going to run depreciation all the way through the end of the year. Okay. So I'm doing it through, what year am I closing? I don't even know what year I'm closing now. This is my problem. I'm not really sure what year I'm on. I think I'm 27, 20. Okay, we'll do 2027. We'll do December 31st, 2027. And you just, run it all the way through the end of the year. It's so important to do that so that the reports will run correctly and that your depreciation will be correct and that your year-to-date numbers will roll into the next year. Now, when you perform a year end, what it does is it takes the amounts on the book card. So if you bring up one of these cards, you'll see, I'll just pick one of these assets. And you can see there's year-to-date information in here. This number gets updated when you perform the year-end close. So the year-to-date depreciation gets moved and the yearly depreciation rate gets updated. So that's what happens in the year-end, and that's important for your your card data to be updated. I think some people probably forget about doing this, but if you don't do it, it'll keep building and building. So you definitely need to run year end. You want to post everything from the fixed asset module into the general ledger, and that's part of the routines either. So you just go to GL posting and pull everything up through 12/31, let's say 2022. 2027. Wait, I forget what year I'm closing. I don't know what. And then if you hit this button, it says there's no transactions, but it would pull up all the transactions that haven't been posted yet. And then you just process those. So make sure you've closed everything. Now I have to delete this batch. Okay, get out of there. All right, so you want to print any reports that you want for year end. This is not required to do that because you can always go back and run a fixed asset year end report for the same year. You want to verify that your calendar is correct. If you haven't added any years lately, if you haven't built the calendar, or if you're for quarters for mid-quarter convention for your depreciation is all set up. And then of course you want to make a backup. And of course, all of your routines again our year end is under routines. So let's go back and do the year-end close for fixed assets. Now, I have different books. I might have different years for those, but for my fiscal year is the internal books. I'm going to go ahead and close that. and it's telling me that I haven't depreciated through the end of the year. So do you want to close the year? I'm cheating. You guys should always say, yes, I want to go back and run depreciation through the end of the year. And there's a report that's showing my year-to-date net book status for each one of these reports, for each one of these assets. That's your year-end close report. And that is what gets updated on the fixed asset card that I showed you earlier. Okay, so fixed assets is closed and we are ready to move to the big one, the general ledger. Okay, so general ledger closing is pretty straightforward, but you want to make sure you posted all your transactions, and it will warn you that there's batches out there. So if you have open batches, recurring batches, you just want to make sure that everything for the current year has been posted. And if you have any final adjustments, again, you can go back and do post-closing adjustments. So just keep that in mind. You can go back 1 year. But this is the most important thing. That's why I highlighted it. You need to create a smart list to verify the posting types of each account. I've been doing this for 20 some years, and I've had a lot of clients that forget to do this. And it's so simple. So just go to Smart List and create a Smart List under Financial, under Accounts. And I have one called posting type balance sheet, posting type income statement. And if you look under the search button, what I'm doing is I'm searching for all those accounts where the main account segment is greater than 3,000. So these are P&L accounts that are marked as balance sheet accounts. So they're wrong, basically. I'm pulling up P&L accounts that are equal to balance sheet. So you need to run a report that does this. And I've got some weird like WIP accounts and I don't know, some other accounts in here. So I'm not sure if these are the right posting accounts for these at all. But if there was anything in here, you should just verify that these are the right accounts for the types so that your balance sheet and your income statements will be correct moving forward. And this will really mess up your P&L if they're not. So all you have to do is run a quick smart list to make sure the main account segments are in sync with the balance sheet type, posting type, whether it's balance sheet or P&L. And then you just flip it for the P&L accounts. So, whoops, I closed smart list. So you're just going to go back out to accounts again. And I did one for the income statement too. So it's under here. Yeah, so that search button just says, find me all the accounts that are balance sheet accounts that are less than 4,000, and the posting type is P&L. So in this case, it should be blank, which is what you want. Definitely don't want any accounts that are the wrong posting type. And that is so important. That's why I actually show you that, and I emphasize that because that will mess up your year end, and then you'll have to restore it, or you can back out too. But it's why not just do it right the first time, right? We don't want to make the IT people mad at us. Again, you can close the periods of the fiscal year, perform the file maintenance, and then verify your settings. Let's do that really quick too on the general ledger setup. So if we go to financial, general ledger setup, this is where your posting account for your retained earnings is. Just make sure that's right. Make sure that you're maintaining history and accounts. This case, it does allow posting to history. Normally this should be turned off because you don't want somebody to accidentally post a history, especially right around this January, February time. People kind of forget which year they're in. So you want to make sure that you don't allow posting to history. Uncheck that box so that it warns you that you're trying to post to the wrong year. Okay, I'll just leave that the way it is and go through the process. Again, you don't have to print financial statements ahead of time. You can always print them after you do year-end close. We've already set up the new fiscal year. So the next step is to just run year-end closing for the financial module. And again, it's under routines. Everything's under routines. Year-end closing. And it's validating again my P&L, my retained earnings account. Don't worry about the journal entry number. That's just going to keep rolling. Normally, I don't remove inactive accounts at year end. And there's that reverse historical year in case you need to know where that is. But if you run that smart list, you probably won't need to do that. Okay, make your backup before you do this. And it looks like I'm closing 2029. And I last closed on 12/31/2028. So let's do that. It tells you that there's things that haven't been posted. Do you want to continue? Yes, I do. And you have a little status bar that tells you yours will probably be a little slower than this. Mine was super fast because I probably don't have any data in 2029. But you want to run this report. You want to print this report too, this report that you get. And of course, there is no data. That's why it took so fast. But you will get every single month every single account and their debits, credits, and what the balances are. So this is a good check for you that your P&L for the year is correct. I'm sorry I didn't have any data in there. I don't know why all the years were closed. I didn't do it. I don't know why they had the sample years closed. But anyway, that's what happens. Run that year end and then make sure that you have a good backup before you start. Okay, I've got some really, really detailed knowledge base articles in here for you and blog articles. If you need more step by step and what happens and all the questions of what I need to do, these are all in the links, which are in the chat. If you guys would like to see step by step, like if you click on this one for General Ledger, it'll take you to the learning community and you'll see every single thing you wanted to know about closing General Ledger is here in the documents. So this is a really good place for you to review those steps if you need more detail. If you've never done it before, I know I'm going at a really high level. So check back here. There's more information. I just want to show you this really quick. This is a really great resource for you for everything GP. If you don't learn anything else today, make sure you bookmark this learning site, because this is going to give you all the GP information about the new features, what's going on with the documentation, all of the additional modules that you might be looking for, information on Power BI. Also over here is what's new in every version of GP. So that's, if you need new users to learn about General Ledger, this is the learning site for all. We don't have user manuals anymore. It's all on this learn.microsoft.com site. So go out here and learn to your heart's desire about everything that you would want. I guess you can download a PDF too. Don't do that. Don't do that. That would be bad. Yeah, I mean, you could. I don't know if you're going to read that, just so it's available out there anywhere the internet's available. And I also wanted to point out too that customer source, I still get questions about that, is no longer available, but all the things that you need in customer source are on these 3 links. This is the one for the user manuals, user guides I just showed you. Here's where you can download the software and get information about system requirements. Anything that you need here is available through that link. And then if you need a support case with Microsoft, just click here and this will open up the support portal with Microsoft. Of course, if you want to go through Crestwood.com, Crestwood, support at Crestwood.com for support. We are also rolling out a portal too, just in case you're interested. Contact me if I'm your account manager, or Wendy or Nick. We can get you some information on entering support cases for GP through the Crestwood support portal. So we've got that rolling out this year. Okay, so this is the time where I take a break and say, I know not everybody wants to follow me through the payroll year-end topics, but if you do like to stay on, if anyone's a payroll customer, please stay on. I'm going to go through the payroll year-end close, just a refresher on that. And if anybody else wants to drop, I'm not going to be offended. So if you have to get back to work or your lunch, feel free. Otherwise, we're going to roll through the year-end process for payroll. And again, Mary at Crestwood.com if you have any follow-up questions, or just reply back to Lauren on this in the chat window, and we'll get back to you on your questions. Okay, so the payroll folks that are with me still, I want to make sure that you've installed the latest 2022 payroll tax update. So that is in GP. You can go to admin. Actually, you know what? Let's go for here. It's probably easier. So go to tools, setup, payroll. This is going to tell you if you put the year-end update on last year. If you go to tools, maintenance, US payroll updates, check for tax updates. Oops, that's not it. Sorry. Tools, setup, company. Where's that? This company. I just did it. System payroll tax. There we go. System payroll tax. It's tools, setup, system payroll tax. I just put the year-end update from October on right before this. So this is the last time the tax code was updated. Was last tax code update was 1/18/2022 when I put the year-end update on last year, and this is the last tax update was 10/10/2022. So you want to make sure that you have that version before you start doing the year-end wage file, because you want to make sure that you have the latest version. Okay, again, you do not have to install the year-end update if you're on payroll. There's no changes to the W-2, W-3, or the electronic filing. So it's not required to put the year-end update on. But if you want to, a lot of people have been reaching out. We can do it for you anyway, just so that you have the latest on the 1099s, if that's what you're looking for. Again, the year-end checklist is really just going through the steps in the routines window, which we'll go through again for you guys. But these are the steps. We're going to create the year-end wage file, look at the W-2s and the statement information, make sure those are correct. And then if you need to remove the year-end wage file again, we can do that. When you run it again, it removes it automatically. And then we'll do all the pay runs in 2022. Then we create the year-end wage file again. This is the final year-end wage file. And while we're doing the year-end close, and then we make a backup of your company data again, and then print the 1099s. So a lot of people have to modify the 1099s. You can create that year-end wage file over and over, and you create the year-end wage file by just performing year-end. So let's go to payroll and do the year-end closing. This creates the wage file. That's what you need to make sure that your W-2s are correct. So we are going to check that box, and here's me removing it because I had created it once before. So we're creating that year-end wage file. So it doesn't create a report or anything. If you want to print it, you click on this button to print the report. Let's print it, see what it looks like. I hope there's data in there, but it did say 2027, didn't it? Okay, great. So there is data in here. This is where you can validate and compare it to your quarter end reports to make sure that everything is okay. You do this year-end wage file. You can do it now just to validate like addresses and things like that, but you really won't be able to do this for final until after the 2022 last check run, whether that's December 31st, December 28th. I don't know when your last pay run is this year, but you shouldn't do this until after that last check run. And then if you want to just edit the W-2 information, you can. You can go through here and you can update things manually. Now, if you do this, keep in mind, you're only updating the year-end wage file. You are not updating the employee card. You're not updating anything else on the reports. So this is where you just want to be cautious about where I'm making changes. These are only for W-2 changes, okay? Then the next step is to print the W-2s. So you can print the W-2s from here, this window. You can do the forms alignment first. I don't know if you need that these days, but you might want to. I'll just print one. Let me just print one employee. I don't need all of them. Just to show you what it looks like, we'll do Pilar. Just do one, just so that you see what it looks like. Okay, so this is just how it's going to fit on the form, on the W-2 form. And back in the day, I used to just put the form up to it, hold it up to light, see if it lines up. But you could use the form, of course, to print out too. Okay, so once those look good, then you can go ahead and run them on white paper, on your pre-printed forms. And there's also where you print the transmittal file, the W-3. This is also where you print the 1095s. Now, I probably would wait a little bit longer to print those. Like don't do them the first week of January because they still have not finished the final form for the 1095Cs. So wait on that. If you have any 1099Rs to do, you can edit those as well. This is where you would perform the filing to do that. Now, I don't have a filing ID for this, but this is where the wage file is at, and this is where it's waiting to create the form to upload to this Social Security Association. So go ahead and do that when you have that ready to create that file, to file electronically. And really that's pretty much it on the year-end close. So again, just some things to remember to do. You can print those W-2s and W-3s. Those are due coming up. Here's the due dates. They're due up on the 31st. And all of these are due to the IRS and employees on January 31st. W-2s, electronic filing for the W-2s, 1099s, 1099Rs, 1095s, all those are due to the IRS and to employees January 31st electronically and paper. And now the February 28th ones, that is a deadline for the ACA for paper, and March 31st is for the ACA e-filing for the IRS. So you do have a little bit of a leeway on the e-filing for the 1095s, probably because they're late getting the instructions. But again, these are the checklists. I think we've kind of already gone over these steps before. If you are using, I'll get to that in just a second. So if you're manually putting in your FICA limit, it's $160,200 this year. And then the extra catch up for employees over 200,000 is that .9. Is also still happening this year. Again, do not apply the tax table updates until after you've run the last check run in 2022. So that's probably coming out in the next week or so, round 1, and there'll probably be another round 2 mid-January for 2023 tax updates. So again, don't put those on. Don't do the tax update until you've put on the last payroll change. Now, if you need our help, we can do that. I'm going to show you guys how you could do it yourself. All you need to do after you finished all your 2022 check runs, don't do this now. Well, don't do it at least after the 2023 rates are out. This is where I was running it just to check and see what the latest update was, but check for tax updates. This will automatically update your 2023 tables if you do it after the tables are released. So just if you need help with that, contact support, but they'll know how to do this. We won't do this usually until January to put on the 2023 tax tables. Hopefully that was not too confusing. All right, we've talked about the dates for filing. They are talking about having a change to the electronic filing requirements. It's 250 now, but if you have 100, it's supposed to be 100 and then 10. That hasn't been finalized. It's still awaiting the IRS final regulations. So this is the link to it if you want to double check when that's coming out, but there is no electronic filing for 100 or 10 right now. Currently, it's still 250, but it's coming. So you might want to check with Green Shades if you have any problems with filing. If you want to do that electronically, they can help you. All right, and then a little bit about the mask IDs, truncating mask IDs. New for 2022, you can actually mask on the W-2s. You can mask the recipient's copy. You cannot mask your federal ID number, your employee ID number. That they need that because we have to put that on our 1099s too. So, or on your form, your 1040. So make sure that that you don't truncate your federal ID number, but you can do that now to help prevent some fraud because people were stealing people's Social Security numbers off of their W-2s. And there's some examples of how you mask it. If anybody's doing 1099s in GP using the benefit self-service year-end process, these are the steps haven't really changed before as far as getting you into the ACA reporting. Other checklists that you might need, here's your retirement plans updates. Again, update the slides and you'll have all these updates all in one place. I just put this slide in here. I thought this was interesting about the imputed income for a lot of people know about life insurance, but there's also some other ones now with dependent care and educational assistance. So if you guys don't have that formula in place to put that imputed income on their W-2, there's some just reminders about that. Again, if you guys are using the integrity data products, make sure that you get the latest 18.5 release if you put the year-end update on. So if you have the employee email suite or comprehensive leave manager, make sure you have the 18.5 release from integrity data. And again, I mentioned before the advanced HR and payroll extensions. These are the steps for the ACA year-end checklist. I'm not going to go through those because we're kind of at time, but if you have any questions about them, please let us know. But the deadlines are, like I said, they have to be filed with the IRS if by paper February and e-file by March, but they're all due to employees January 31st. And here's some more helpful hints too for getting tax forms, IRS forms, just lots of great data all in one place for you. Okay. So that's what I have for you today. Hopefully that you guys were able to come up with a refreshed experience on how to do year end. And I don't know if we have any questions, Lauren, but I know we're at time.
Yes, we do.
Okay,
We do have
I
a
can
couple
take questions
questions.
if I have some time if you guys want to.
Kendra, can you still print W-2s with the boxes on white paper is one question. And
Yes.
the other question is, okay, yes.
Yes,
The
well,
other
if you
question,
could do it last year,
Oh.
I'm going to say if you could do it last year, you could do it this year. When I printed it, it didn't do it. So I'm not sure if there was something I was missing. Maybe my report was modified or something like that. So if you did it last year, you should be able to do it this year. If not, reach out to support. I just want to make sure I'm not telling you. Okay, go ahead.
Also, the other question is, could we run a tax update now to ensure the 2022 tax tables are
Yes.
okay?
Do it now before it comes out. No, it's probably going to be coming out like in the next week. So if you do it like today or something, you'll be fine. Yeah, just don't do it probably past this week, because then you'll get the 2023 tax rates. We can get them back for you if you do that, but just double check.
That is all the questions I have.
Oh, okay. Well, you guys, if you're still on and if you have any more questions, email me, mary@crestwood.com, about processes or something like that. But if you actually want someone to help you with that, email support@crestwood.com.